what's up? Welcome back to the Chens Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about cubing, YouTube, and more, so let's go ahead and get into the first question. All right, so we all know that you make a lot of just videos that have a lot of thought in them, but is there anything that specifically goes into your thought process when you're making a video?
Honestly, it's one of those things where I always had kind of ideas to like what my videos are going to be. There's just been some like topics that I've always wanted to share to the community. I think one of the biggest ones like that I can think about in my videos was the whole Felix Zemdegs with him. It's kind of gotten like with Oceanic Championships, you can kind of see him, becoming more of a normal cuber now, I guess, or being mortal with like all these other, new people coming in. But I think a lot of people, like for him, I thought a lot of people were writing him off when in reality, it's like you still have to deal with like the greatest cuber of all time. I see that with me and my friends when I'm talking about sports with like Tom Brady. I think so many people write off people just because they're old, but you forget like all the experience they have. I understand like at some point there's like physical limits, but you can't beat 5 like world championship finals, like that level of experience, especially when it's like when you had COVID and you had like a long break, and a lot of these newer cubers are coming in with no major championship experience. Like the amount of nerves that go into that is just kind of like insane.
Yeah, it's not appreciated. And like when we think about Tom Brady's like what, 40?
Yeah.
Felix is just like 20. We write people off way too fast in the cubing community, but I agree. It's kind of sad. He's no longer this cube god, but he might forever hold that title.
But I guess back to your question about how like, I get my video ideas. There's just some things like that where I just have like the feeling in my chest to just make a video. I think one of the biggest ones was, I think I started doing like, it was 3 years ago. It was when I first watched Someone Needs Salt, which is kind of like the inspiration to most of my videos. I see that often in my comments. Everyone's calling me like cubing Someone Needs Salt. But the one video about Martin Telesforo, that was one of those videos where I was working 10-hour shifts at my like fast food restaurant.
That's crazy.
During COVID time, and I remember getting home at like 10 p.m. at night from working 12 to 10 and doing like research on the whole Martin Telesforo incident. I just didn't know, like, this is just such an interesting story. I don't know what to do. So I just decided to make a video in the style of Someone Needs Salt. And I remember from the point of me taking YouTube really seriously, from that like moment, that video still got like 1,000 views. And I think there's like a difference, and like I think people can tell sometimes on videos like which topics I like really, really care about, and what other topics I'm kind of just using as like a filler before I get inspiration.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes like I'll make a video and I have spent like way too long on like car rides and stuff, like saying I'm gonna be productive and like throwing a video out. So at least you're kind of staying committed to the filler videos.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but all right, so I think that was pretty interesting. But the next question, do you have any tips for, say, I'm a new cuber and I start cubing and I'm just like, oh, wait, this is crazy. There's competitions and people are really fast and I might never get there. Do you have any tips for that kind of person?
Well, I think the first thing is to just have fun. I know that's kind of cliche, but I remember when I ever first started cubing, it took me a bit to just like, hey, I'll, just do beginner's method and I'll do speed solves with beginner's method. And then I like learned F2L. And I remember being like, in my bedroom solving a ton of, doing a ton of solves with just my first experience with F2L. And that being like really, really just fun to do. And I was like, I think take your time and don't feel rushed, and I wouldn't say like compare yourself. I think you should always make benchmarks for yourself and, have like, you have room to improve, and you can always do a ton of practice stuff and learn new algorithms and do all these things to improve, but also just enjoy the spots where you're at. And I think for a lot of people, they compare yourselves. I made a video about this actually with what does it mean to be fast? And it's like, I think a lot of people compare themselves too much to like the next level that they kind of forget and enjoy where they've come from. I think like I'm a math person. I love math. And one of the things that my friends and I always like stop and talk about is like, stop and enjoy the like really cool notation that you're doing right now. Because it's always like cool to look onto like the next class and like what's going to end up, like all the new stuff you're going to learn, but you never realize where you've gotten. And for like many people, like when you're at 20 seconds, it seems like you have so much farther to go, and you kind of do, but in reality you've gone so far, and you should like really appreciate where you're at. So if you're new, I think the best thing is to appreciate where you're at. Don't be too hard on yourself, and also like, you know, go to a competition if there's one in your area, because those are a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love comps. My last competition, like I met some new people, and they were like really inspiring to me, because like when I was so little and I first learned how to 2007, I really thought I should never go to a competition. I'm gonna like want to quit cubing, because I was scared. So it's really cool how a lot of people are kind of going to competitions. But I agree with that. It's like you get caught up in way too much. I need to get better. It's like an urge. But thank you for that. Next question. Do you have a specific moment in your kind of channel history where you were like, wow, my channel is actually getting pretty big? Dang.
Yep, it's definitely the Swedish video. I remember, so that was another video where it's like, I just need to make a video about this. And I was actually, so up until, so basically the start of the summer, the reason why I started my cubing channel was because I didn't get an internship at the TV station I wanted to get an internship with. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm just going to be like, you know, sitting around doing nothing all summer. So I'm like, all right, let's just try to take Twitch real seriously. And at that point I was a Twitch affiliate, and I had like 100 followers. And there's kind of like some OGs from my Happy Feet Gremlin on Twitch that are still around on the Cubing YouTube channel. But anyway, there I would like do live streams and stuff, and I'm like, this is not taking any traction. And everybody always on the internet have been saying, in order to gain traction on Twitch, you have to do YouTube, and we're gonna bring the audience to do live streams. And I was like, all right, let's try to make videos. So then I started like researching how to, like, you know, I guess quote unquote beat the YouTube algorithm and all this stuff. And the whole modern like philosophy on it is you have to do like challenge videos and like the Mr. Beast. And a lot of, so if you look at my earlier videos, a lot of them are, you know, cubing upside down. I think that was all those videos are so much fun to make. The challenge videos, or the ones where like my sister was filming me where I was cubing when I had like 8 cubes and I couldn't drop any of them. I was making those kind of style of videos, and then the WCA European Championships happened, and I was watching the Nations Relay because I have a friend, Jakub Zianov, who is on the Latvian team, and I was watching him compete, and I just see like the story of like the Swedish cubers like unfold, of like how they in the events and like the team relay were able to basically get all the way to 3rd place. And it's like unheard of for like, I did not know any of these Swedish cubers beforehand. And then I remember like, all right, I remember watching them like pull off 3rd place, even though they were seated 7th. And like in cubing, it's hard to move because times are so fixed. And I remember just thinking, like, I was cutting the grass, and I was just like thinking of all these like video ideas, and I'm like, I just need to tell this story so much. So I get inside for cutting the grass, and I go and I make a video about it, and then I post it that night. And I remember when that video was like posted, I think I like woke up the next day and it had 100 views. And I think Chris Mills commented on the video. I had like 7 comments, which I was just like, oh shoot, this is gonna like be crazy. And then I remember like later in that day, all of a sudden, like my phone just started like getting a ton of comments, and I was like refreshing the views, and it was just like, you know, it was like changing like real time. And I think I ended up like by the next day I had over 1,000 views on that video. And that was the moment where I was like, all right, this is like the style of content because that was the same style of content of the Martin Telesforo video that I made that had 1,000 views. And I just started realizing at that point, I'm like, this is like what the cubing community like is missing right now, is these summoning style videos. And also that like, I feel like the videos that I'm most passionate about are kind of these style of videos anyway, because like the Martin Telesforo and, you know, the Swedish video, it's very much like, I need to make a video about this, and this is like the only format that I feel like I can like truly present it. So I think from that point on, I'm like, I posted like the GeoGuessr video that I already had made up to that point the next Saturday, and it didn't like perform that well. And then I like made the Felix Zemdegs, how like he came 7 moves away from getting a world record in 3x3 finals. And then from that point on, like that video ended up being like 2,000 views within a week, and I was like, all right, we're only doing this format from now on. So, yeah.
So when I first started YouTube, which is earlier this year, I started doing shorts, and I may had one and hit 300 views. And I like freaked out after that, so I kept doing them, and I got to the point where it kind of like addictive. Like, oh look, this one got 10,000 views just because it's a short. So as I'm kind of seeing that restart, and like when I've started long form content, it's kind of like, ooh, it's not the same. You know what I mean? So it's really cool. It's kind of inspiring to hear that story, like how that kind of work paid off. So that's a great story. Anyway,
and also like with short form content too, because the thing with YouTube is that. The short form, the YouTube Shorts, is on a different algorithm than
there's no SEO. It's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's no SEO, and it's just on a completely different algorithm. So it will recommend, if your like shorts videos perform well, then it will like your shorts videos will perform well, but there's no correlation to the long form video. And that's the same thing with me. The only thing you have is your subscriber base that would get it in their subscription feed. So that's the same thing with me. It's like I thought about going to short like form vertical, but it's like I know it's on separate algorithms. So the only thing I'll do is maybe now and then is just pull like a clip from that one of my long form videos. But yeah,
I did some research, and I was like, well, I think the best way to roll is you publish like Soup Timmy. He publishes one short, and I think the best thing to do was, in addition, he could do this. In addition to doing these shorts, he could also add like 2 or 3 long form contents in that week. Like, it's not a terrible amount of effort if they're lower quality, but still long form content, because it's kind of still appealing to everyone. And I know keepers that only watch shorts, but most keepers only watch long form content. So I agree with that. It's like kind of a bigger deal. But my next question, I think this is something a lot of people will be kind of interested to hear, because if anyone knows your name, they probably think you're notorious for this. So as you're making your videos, how do you get so much quality in kind of the thoughts and what's mentioned in the video?
I think that like since 2017, I've always been like following. I've never been super into like following every single event in cubing, but I listen to all the Corner Cutter podcasts. I don't know if that's like
they stopped it.
Yeah, he stopped it. Yeah. I always loved it when he introed with like was it podcasting since like 2015, cubing since 2017. I'm like, I feel like that's in reverse. Like, why would you be podcasting earlier than you're cubing? But that was hilarious. But I would listen to all of his episodes, so I knew like a lot of different stories. And that's how I figured out the Martin Telesforo, because I think DG Cubes in one of the episodes made a joke about 4.41 and like how that was Martin Telesforo's like fake world record. And from that, I'm like, I did not know about this. So I went and I did a ton of research on Martin Telesforo. But so different things like that I picked up through podcasts. So I've had those ideas in the back of my head. I think with like the terms of quality and stuff, whenever I post a video, I'm always like, I just don't feel like this is maybe like the highest quality I could have done it. But I think it's like you always are kind of beating yourself up. But I think with just like doing it over and over again in practice, it kind of like, it only takes me like one of my like a 2 to 3 minute video. I mean, I can like, if it's a story I really, really care about, I can like write, produce and edit the whole video in like 2 hours. So it's just like a lot of practice, because I think when like, even when the 2x2 world record came out, or like whenever those world records, I'm pretty fast with like, all right, let me drop everything I'm doing. I need to go and just like lock myself in my room and just like make a video within 2 hours and post it. And a lot of people think I've had like stuff pre-made, and it's like, no, I basically, write the script, but I have like, I have in my head like the story of like, or I know kind of like the previous like 2x2 world record. I kind of know like at the time when I made the 2x2 world record, the video wasn't distributed that well, and like all the sources I was checking didn't have the video. So I was like, all right, this is kind of similar to Yusheng Du, where that world record was kind of like unthinkable, but like it also is broken. So I kind of had that storyline in my head that I wanted to bring up. So all those different things, it's like, if you kind of know the story ahead of time going in, and I've known a lot of them just from being in the cubing community since 2017, that like you can kind of make a great video and the story will carry. Yeah,
I think that's definitely that's really cool. As you kind of follow cubing, there's things that are gonna like kind of get lost, and there's things I will gain. So when I was 7 years old, and I first started listening to cubing, I was just kind of a little kid, and then I kind of started getting older, obviously. And now that I'm where I am, I look back at all these people that like little me watch, and I'm like, they've just left. People like who quit YouTube, and there's people who have joined. There's people who do it for a month, they get a huge following, and then they quit YouTube. I'm like, you got bigger than me, and then you quit YouTube. What? But it's just stuff like that, yeah. But anyway, next question. I think you kind of talked about this. Do you think you talked about the right record, but do you think Yushing Du will have the 3.47 broken anytime soon? Because people like Max Shao are getting like the 3. No, was Max Shao? Someone got like a different 3, and then Max Park's getting 3s. It's getting 3s. Kim Asher, I didn't know Busher's last name, got a 3. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think this is one of those things where it's like, what is a real scramble? And
yeah,
it's like with the 3.08 with Matthew Onaba, like how is that not considered a world record? That's why I find just kind of gimmicky with technicalities in like the cubing community, where it's like he gets a 3.08 in a team relay in North American Championships, like the closest thing you can get to an official event that's not official, and that's not considered a world record. Like, yeah, it's kind of like, okay, by technicality he's not gained world record, but like in all reality, that's like every cuber knows that is like a legit scramble, and that he legitimately solved it in 3.08 seconds. And to me, and I think for a lot of people, that's also just like a world record. And I think in many ways, like world records have been broken multiple times. It's just not been in like the exact time and place for it to happen. So I think it's just a matter of time. I think any of the top 10 solvers can do it. I think Luke Garrett, I mean, he's from my area. He, I think, has a really good chance. Matty Onaba, Max Park. I mean, any of those big people can do it. I think maybe within like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, I've been kind of rooting for Matty. I really hope he does well in nationals, because Timon, he signed up for nationals, and it's kind of like the people who live here versus Timon. I'm not against Timon, but I just think it'd be cool to see a USA citizen winning that. But yeah, I think that's definitely a really kind of good take on that. I got frustrated when I heard about that. I was like, what? Like, this needs to count. If it doesn't count, then I think it should still have been recognized more. Like, got like a couple thousand views on YouTube, reshares, that's it. Like,
and the thing about that too is it's like not his, like it's so plausible for that to happen in just a real competition. And it's like, who gave, like, well, I just don't understand. Maybe I just don't know deep back in the lore of like when the World Cube Association was formed and like the Guinness Book of World Records, but like who gave like kingship to the World Cube Association in terms of like they can only do the world record. Like, I agree. If it's like, if somebody does a like legit scramble that's like generated, probably, like, I don't know if it was generated the same way. Even if it's not, it's like other people were getting average times on it. It's a scramble. So to me, it's a world record. But
it's like those underappreciated things. The WCA, I know they computer generate those things. It's not like someone's like, oh, RDULF. Okay, that's a scramble, y'all. I think they definitely do computer generate it. But if I looked at that, and I feel like there's going to be some old cuber commenting under this thing being like, oh, well, back in that day. But if you look at the Guinness Book of World Records, they do have Rubik's Cube World Records. And a lot of them are different. But I think that the WCA, they just kind of got their, lore, and they're just governing over all competitions. They started the WCA, and they were like the first ones to host big competitions people cared about. So people were like, okay, this is our organization. I mean, cubing's starting. We're kind of at the beginning of a mass thing, documentaries, all that coming out later. WCA. So I think that might have been why. But yeah. Anyway, for the next question, your content is typically around 2 minutes. So I wanted just to check that fact, and I'm pretty sure most of it is 2 minutes. Is that a certain reason? Do you feel like that's the time frame where you can get everything in?
I think it's the time frame where you can get basic principles of a story or an idea in, but not have it where it's like kind of half in depth, half not, versus like fully in depth. I kind of want to go, like, I'm back from college on break right now, so I have time like, whereas when I'm in school, I basically have to make these videos like after I get back from classes and, you know, after I get all my homework done and all that kind of stuff. So I usually spend like maybe 3 hours a week making a video during the school year. But now I've got like all this free time. So I hopefully can get maybe at least 1 or 2 fully in-depth, like maybe 10-minute videos through while I'm here over the winter break. But I think the reason why I do 2-minute videos is because I don't want to be like going like that's the amount of time I think I can get basic principles of a story down before it becomes like too complicated and I'm kind of overdoing the story for like what I have time to make. So I think if I just kind of stick around like 2 to 3 minutes, I can kind of highlight basic things so people get a gist of it and they can kind of do their own research from there. But I think for like in the future, I do wish I can go further in depth and make those video lengths longer.
So I was thinking about that, like before I was trying to think out questions I could ask you during this podcast. And I thought something about that is, I don't know if you've seen kind of like that cubing news. They've blown up because of their cubing news. And these are videos where they're just flashing other people's like content and talking over it, which is something I thought this could be made in a different way and possibly better, but they're kind of innovating something. So I kind of agree with you. Like a story kind of has its basic details and then it gets the big where you could make it 10, 20, 30, probably even an hour and just content on that. But yeah, for sure. All right, so the next question is, do you have any thoughts on the recent Square One like progress that the event has had recently with like Max Shao, Elijah, and Phelps getting that 4.33 and stuff?
I'll be honest, I've never solved a Square One in my life. I think I've maybe touched one like 3 times. I think it's impressive whenever people are breaking down a record. I think Square One's a good event too, just from like it being just a cool event to watch, and it's like pretty spectator friendly. And I think I think it's cool. I remember the days back when Daniel Karnock was doing like, he got like his 5-second world record back in US Nationals. I remember that being a big moment. So yeah, to see it go down to 4 seconds, like whenever you see improvements, I think it's, you know, pretty cool. But to be honest, I'm not a big Square One solver. I don't know the intricacies of any Square One solves.
Yeah, same.
So yeah.
I'm just kind of watching. I want to get more into it, but I'm not good at Square One at all. You ask me like, what's the exact notation for a J-perm? I'm like, I can probably do it on the cube, but I can't tell you the notation at all. It's like, I totally agree with that. But next question, kind of moving on from overall like cubing community, do you have any like outside things that you think have helped you in your journey as a cuber to improve? Like as a hobbies or something?
So like you're saying cubing specifically, I think a lot like math honestly is pretty elite when it comes to like making, you know, cubing pretty easier to understand. I was thinking about making a video on this actually, one of my more in-depth ones. A lot of people have like this idea that a lot of people from the outside think you're doing math when you're cubing, and then a lot of cubers think that you're not doing math when you're cubing. And then I think like the super like, you know, like overarching thing is that you're actually doing math while you're cubing, you just don't realize it. And there's like whole things like conjugation and group theory, and I just finished abstract algebra, which is just all group theory stuff, and realizing that like, you know, a Rubik's cube is just a group and has like elements in it, and you know, there's different things like how we manipulate the cube with algorithms and permutation groups is like really cool, but a lot of cubers don't understand what they're doing. And I think to write it off like you're not doing math is like, you're kind of true, because you're just kind of doing like what you think is like, you know, finger tricks and like just algorithms, but all of it has like this deeper mathematical meaning to it. And even like the Rubik's cube is like equivalent to like a 48 card deck in a way, like mathematically, which is kind of like insane to think about when it comes to like permutations. So I think that's probably one of the biggest ways of me, like when it comes to algorithms and it comes to understanding how the cube works, I think math has kind of helped with that.
Yeah, for sure. This is kind of different than the question I asked, but like I agree with cubing kind of be a different math because I am an algebra student. I'm not nearly as advanced in like calculus or whatever, but in the algebra that I do, I love doing my math and just learning about it. And if you think about it, numbers like those are kind of our characters for the math that we do. It's almost like if you look at blind solving, they have A, B, C, D. Like this is like a 1, you're moving it to 2, blind solve. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
it's a lot. I'd agree with that. It's like a lot different than what we think of as math. So it's like almost a like can't think of the word, but like I can't think of the word. I'll put it over the screen. But yeah. Anyway, for the next question, you are obviously a cuber. You're at college. Do you have any like tips for people who are maybe in the same situation as you, they're a student, how to balance that kind of that mesh of skills?
I think honestly, I almost every day when I get back from classes, I just spend an hour just I kind of put on YouTube on my what do you call it, my screen, and I just kind of do like just some solves for an hour. And I think it's like I always have this belief that you can find time for what's important for you. And like if cubing's that important, you'll find time for it. And like
Yeah.
when it was finals week and I had to study for like economics and math tests, it's like I found time for what's important there. So I mean, whatever is important to you, you'll find time to make it happen. So I think the one thing though is don't just be that one cuber who just kind of like you're just in your room the whole day. Like go out and meet friends, touch some grass. Like it's
Yeah.
like that's probably my one piece of advice there also. But yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with going back and just, solving for like an hour or two, or, if you want to do some intentional practice during that time, I think it's pretty manageable even as a college student. But I also like, yeah, I mean, I think even like when I was working like 10-hour shifts at my work over the summer, that one time, and I would still like find time from like 10 p.m. to like 2 a.m. to make a video because I found it interesting. I know not everyone can do that, but I think for a lot of ways you can, if you really, really have your mind to something, if you really want to find time, either practice cubing, practice something else, make videos, any of that, you'll find time to do it because, that's what you enjoy doing so much.
Yeah, Zoom time. All right. So this is probably going to be one of the last questions because we're running out of Zoom time. But do you have any tips for the person who they has just started YouTube? Might not even be cubing, but they're kind of worried about giving up or creativity.
I think I think any tip for anybody who's doing YouTube is you got to find a way to differentiate yourself in like some kind of way. I think that was kind of my mistake with doing the challenge videos initially. So I think you have to take something that you really enjoy from something else and combine that with cubing, and then you can kind of make that into content. Like I think like Cubarhythms, like he loves animation and that sort of thing. So if you take what you love with animation and you combine that with cubing and combine that together, it becomes like, really amazing. And I think for like me also, I love just live production. I did that with my school for, I did with my high school for 3 years. I'm doing it with my college now for 2 years. So when it comes to like cubing live streams and even like commentary on like events in cubing and stories in the past, I think all that is like just because I love doing that so much, and I combine that with cubing. So I think for anybody, just find the one kind of style of content that you love doing and just combine it with cubing. And I think from there, like your audience can tell that you really enjoyed doing it, and also the fact that you would really enjoy doing it too.
Yeah, for sure. I think that like certain people, not gonna say any names, but people like when I watch their videos, I'm like, did they actually want to make this, or is it like that aspiring hope one day they'll have 1 million subscribers? So I agree with that for sure. I think your content, like when someone's watching it, they can tell, okay, this person, they thought it out, they're enjoying making it, and they're not like, why am I doing this? This is dumb. I don't want to do this. You know what I mean? Like, there's actually a point to it. So that's definitely interesting for sure. So the very, very last question, because we're running out of Zoom time here, and I kind of got to go. What is, as you have thought out every single aspect of all the things, what is the one thing that has helped you become 10th in national America for oven mitts?
Oh, wait, ranked 10th in
I
North
was trying to
America?
keep a straight
Yeah.
face, and I was like losing
Yeah.
my words.
Yeah, no, so honestly, I think it's luck of geography, because I had a competition near me that was like one of two in North America that have had it where you can compete in oven mitts. So yeah, that competition was wild actually, because that was at 4 a.m. when I did oven mitts, because that was a midnight competition. It was one of those for New
Wow.
Year's.
Oh yeah.
And it was in Chicago. It was Windy City New Year 2022. And
Yeah.
that competition was a lot of fun, because we went all the way until like 5 a.m. But yeah, that
Whoa.
4 a.m. was oven mitts. And I was like one of probably like 10 people to compete in that. And there was like 30 other people that did it in Canada. So at a different competition. So I was able to somehow get 10th. And that's kind of like my biggest flex of all time, is I'm 10th in North America for oven mitts. But yeah, I think the main thing is in my solves, I kind of was just like, I'm not going to do any risky algorithms. I'm just going to do J-perms and stuff. And I saw a lot of people, because I was judging like the round before of oven mitts, and I noticed that a lot of people were just like fumbling when they tried to use their more complicated algorithms. And I'm like, I'm just going to keep it basic. I'm just going to do like soons and anti-soons and J-perms, and like instead of doing my M-flick U-perm, I'm just going to do my front face like F2 U permutation. So yeah, keep it basic when you're doing oven mitts.
Nah, that's the tip from 10th in the world. I was trying to keep a straight face while I said that. I was like losing my words. Oven mitts. Nice. All right. Thank you for watching, y'all. I'm super excited that y'all got to watch this episode of the Chens Podcast. I'll see you in the next one.